filmmaking team who 20 years ago financed this film by maxing out their credit cards. Puffy, chair, producer, and star Katie Aselton, and her writer, director, and producing co-star, Mark Duplass.
Oh shit, y'all.
Hey!
Let's just start this off by saying a huge thank you and congratulations to all of you dumb motherfuckers who could have watched this on Prime Video for free.
She's online.
And you came out to an in-person movie theater and paid money because the community is real.
How many people are seeing this for the first time tonight?
Oh shit.
Oh God!
How was that?
Guys, I'm so sorry. It looks terrible.
How's that 720p experience for you guys?
Just so you know, it was 2003.
Like when we got that camera, it was like, I can't believe how good this is. Despite the fact that in every wide shot you cannot see our faces.
When we went to Sundance, we bragged about how good our camera coverage was. That was the time, guys. This is vintage. It's almost analog.
You guys are so cool. This is awesome. So rather than do the traditional
We're not moderating. No one's
Q&A
moderating.
and the whole thing, we just want to hear from you guys and hear any reflections and questions you have. And
We are
make
in
this.
conversation.
We're in conversation.
With you.
So that being said, let's just start this with some big compliments from you guys, shall we? Who wants to just lay it on? Who wants to lay it on real thick? Here it comes. She's ready.
No, she's like, no.
She's like, no, no.
Come back to me later.
We've got one. We've got to take her.
It's a compliment, but it'll segue nicely into it. I do have a question. I think the story beats and the dialogue are so well developed, and I just really think it lands really masterfully. And so I am curious as to how much of it was improvised or off the cuff versus scripted.
Good question. So
I actually think it's a great question.
it's a great question. It's a great question.
As someone
I'm a therapist, I ask you
who
questions.
is not a writer on the movie, I think it's a great question.
So let me sort of put you guys like in our place back in 2004 when we were shooting this movie. We had made two very, very cheap micro-budget short films. One was $3, one was like $80 that went to Sundance.
The $80 was just catering.
Yeah, so it was just
Because there was more people.
And we were thinking it's probably time for us to make a feature film. We were feeling very scared and intimidated by the 90-minute form, or in this case, the 80-minute form. And I think what occurred to us was we really need to work within what we have going for ourselves as opposed to try to just be creatively thinking of a movie that we'd like to make should we have access to those materials. So we developed this filmmaking theory that we call the Available Materials School of Filmmaking, going with the Puffy chain, which was we need to develop a movie that cannot be stopped, that can be made for $10,000, which was the amount of money we felt like we could get together to do it. And in order to do that, we just looked at what did we have at our disposal.
I'm going to remind you guys, it was 2003.
Yeah.
That's all.
So I
Can't do
had this
that.
van when I was a touring musician and I had this van. So I was like, wait, that's great. That will be production vehicle and picture vehicle. Good, we got that. There was a furniture store that had two matching recliners on sale for $400, and I was like, well, that's great. We got show recliner and stunt recliner, so we're set there. But I think the most important part of this is that when we wrote the script, we wrote the role for me, we wrote it for Katie, and we wrote it for Red. And we built it for our strengths, and we built it for the things that we felt like we were in a unique position to do well at the time. And at the time, Katie and I were in a relationship, Jay and his girlfriend, future wife Jen, were in a relationship. All our friends, there was this epidemic.
Rhett was not.
Red was not.
I think that's important
Yes.
to know.
Yes. He was living in an apartment very much, and by the way, the lizard footage was pre-existing.
That is Brett's footage
Yes.
that he shot. That's important too.
Which we licensed from him for $1. And so we were all in this sort of like epidemic of like, are we getting married or are we breaking up? Are we wasting time? What are we doing? So we felt like that is the central storyline. Let's put it in the hangar of a road movie. Road movies are a little like more simplistic in terms of a form to make, and I think we thought practically, if you look at the movie, it's kind of like 15 long scenes as opposed to like 45 short scenes. It was a movie we felt like we could shoot in a relatively short amount of time, and to your point, get the basic dialogue in place. So there was an 80-page script. So I think it was 73 pages when we went in.
She was short.
She was short. And then we knew from there we would follow the scene from A to B to C to D plot-wise, but how it got there was heavily improvised.
I will say, as an actor, I feel like every scene had a very clear, like on the page, A and C, and then it was very much a like, but the B is you. Like, get there, like this is where we have to end. You know what the trajectory of the scene is, so it's not like full-blown improv where you're just like, God knows where it's gonna end up. It wasn't that. It was more of like, you know where we're going, but like get there in like a beautifully human, authentic way.
It's weird as an actor because part of you wants to be lost in the scene, but in order to act in a movie like this, half of you is the actor and half of you is holding the script and the other part of your brain, and you're thinking, while we're in that motel room scene and what's happening, I know we need to get to this place where we're gonna hit the head of are we fucking getting married or not, and we should do it in a casual and loose way. And the burp was not scripted, but I went for it. So all of those things.
But also, like, I was just his girlfriend, and I was like, I don't know if we're ever gonna get married, so when am I ever
But
gonna
you
have
were
this?
not, though.
When am I ever gonna have this conversation again? What an opportunity.
But you were, but let me say, you were an actor doing that.
100%, I was a hired, yes. I
You
was
were-
professional, but also,
Fuck
when
you.
was I ever gonna get that opportunity to say those words out loud again?
But I think it's important, like that diner scene when Katie's character, you know, when Emily comes really hard at the boys, and it's just like, marriage is special, and you didn't treat it that way. That wasn't written that way. That was Jay, who would love to be here tonight, sends his love to all of you guys. He was basically watching that scene and watching Katie as a person and actor sort of pent up with more to say. And he was like, you have something you want to say.
Take a take.
And he gave it to her, and that's what came out of that. So it was a combination, to your point, of trying to have a very simple, threadbare, basic story. Okay, we've got should I get off the pot marriage story. We've got a little bit of like fun, like comedic triangle of different personalities. We got a road trip, but then inside of that, allow enough shagginess so you can get the humanity and hopefully keep it on the rails.
Both Mark and Jay, who wrote the script, knew that we all had enough material to pull from individually to like fill it out. So while the script itself was very light, it was incredibly heavy because we all knew what we all carried going into it. So it was beautifully written in that way that it trusted the actors so much. And I think that is the very short answer to your question. And I promise not every question will have such a long answer.
Yeah, that was long. Yeah. Okay, my friend right here. You get one question. Excuse me. No, I'm kidding.
Is Rhett really your brother? And then the other question is, did you ever consider having you guys be together? Because we're like sitting here going, I can't believe they broke up.
Yeah.
And then we look over here and it's you guys.
Right. Okay.
And now we have 2 children and $3.
Yeah.
It's like very confusing.
So Red is not really my brother. He is a friend of ours from Austin, and was the best actor we knew in our Meisner class at the time.
Also, we needed Jay to direct and operate.
And operate the camera. Yes.
So he was busy.
So that was that. So the ending of the film was complicated because we ultimately decided that we would shoot the movie in chronological order, and we would not decide whether Josh and Emily should break up until the last moment. And we would obey the
That's
energy
the
of what
improv,
happened.
guys.
Yes. And so Katie took the initiative at that moment, and I think part of it was, my character did make it a little easy on her with some of his answers to those questions. He read that to her, but it was a surprise to all of us in the best way, and I think that we liked the idea. We weren't anti-happy ending, we just felt like we should try to be honest about what's happening. And when we look back at what was happening for the film, it just felt like, yeah, they don't really have this.
No, that relationship should never work out.
Yeah.
No.
But we were dumb enough to get married in real life. So.
We're figuring it out as we go.
White shirt, middle, friend. Or you can shout it.
After seeing this and seeing like Hump Day and Sister Sister, I feel like there's like a bit of a theme or structure maybe where there's a relationship and then a third party comes in and kind of mixes things up. Can you maybe speak on that kind of structure, if that's something you kind of use?
Question is about triangulation as a plot device. Here's the great news about triangulation is that it works.
And it ain't new.
It's been working for years, and it's also incredibly cheap and functional
Caesar
for micro budget
Rubens,
cinema.
the whole thing.
It really works well, and I really have always believed as a filmmaker, and I think Katie, you've done a lot of this in your own movies. Magic Hour is a lot like this too, which is try not to reinvent plot, try not to reinvent story, try to set up the chessboard as it's been set up since Shakespeare for years, but just take the pieces out and replace them with more idiosyncratic pieces that feel more like you and feel more like the flavor of you, and let them play the game so people can understand it, but it'll ideally be flavored differently enough to keep you entertained.
But there's a reason why triangulation works so well.
Yeah.
Because it's cheap. There's only 3 of them. And it's fucking fascinating to watch. Like in whatever iteration you find it, whether it's a love triangle or like 2 brothers and a girl or an outsider, like it's all interesting and it's so simple. There's just 3. So when you look at independent film, it like makes the most sense ever to sort of find that. And there's a reason why Lynn, who is so brilliant in her filmmaking, went in that direction, and why these guys also went in that direction.
I mean, the truth is I'm just a failed playwright trying to make plays work in cinema. That's really what it's coming down
It's
to.
like he's like the indie Shakespeare. Why are you making it so hard?
Please don't quote that. Way back there, 2 arms up.
Stop.
Yeah.
Thank you. So I had a question, like I love this idea of triangulation, and also like it reminds me of this concept of like the third thing that we use a lot in medicine, to talk about like it's difficult to have a conversation with someone about difficult things. So use a third thing, use art, use a movie to broach the subject, right? And be like, yeah, relationships are tough. We don't want to talk about marriage, but like maybe we watch this movie and it allows us to open up the conversation. And so I was wondering, like this is kind of like a meta situation of that, right? Where you 2 are in a relationship, you're making a movie about the thing that you in your life are like thinking about and grappling with. What was it like to build that script? What type of conversations did it bring out in your own relationship? Which maybe is too personal.
It was so hard. Thank you for asking that question.
It's so hard, and yet we're here now.
Yeah, but it was so, Katie was 25, I was 27. We were fearful in that place, and there's a lot of us in these roles, including, I'm so sorry to say, the baby talk.
Oh, guys, how horrifying
Guys.
is this movie today? But I will also say,
I don't know how we kept our friends.
well, that's why we have new friends.
But to the earlier point about triangulation, like it was an interesting thing because it was always like creatively Mark and Jay, right? Like they grew up together making movies, they grew up together doing this thing, and then I pop in and I'm like, here I am. And it became like this weird love triangle. Because Jay was also the director, and I don't know if anyone here is an actress, but like, you have a very special relationship with the director too. Like, Jay and I would have these incredible moments where he was like the diner scene, like where he was like, I know what you're, like he knew what I was feeling before I could even articulate.
He saw you, yeah.
But he and Mark would also have a creative language, and then Mark and I would have our own creative language. And it was like the weirdest love triangle to ever be in. And I think it took us like years to sort of unpack all of it, which is wild. And it's strange to do Q&As in like 2026 and still talk about it. I love Jay so much, and I love Mark with all my heart, but like it is like, that was like a really interesting thing that we didn't fully understand the depths of while we were in it. But I think it just added to like the special nature of the project. Like it really did. When I look at what you guys see on screen, it is so special. I'm so proud of those little motherfuckers who made that movie up there, because we didn't know what we were doing. And
I think that's a good point, is the not knowing what you're doing. We felt that we weren't masters of the form and the craft of storytelling yet, and so you have to ask yourself, so what do we uniquely have to offer? What might we offer that might bring somebody in?
And what does the other person offer?
Yeah.
Like, there was such a wild, blind trust between the three of us that like, we just went into the deep on it
That's what
together.
we had to offer. It was not filmmaking acumen and skill. It was, we know this dynamic, very raw,
It was
very true.
trust and it was love.
So we'll just present this to you in its unhewn form, and the storytelling craft is not going to be what the Coen brothers can do. We don't have that yet, but we will offer up ourselves,
And we still don't have it. We're still
Yes,
because to be fair.
and then hopefully in the years to come, we'll be able to tell stories that are much less personal with craft involved.
But I think if I'm gonna answer the question I think you really want, it felt really good to have so many of those conversations that I never could have had at 25, because I was just a little baby girl, and still figuring out like my first real life for the first time. So like it was really wild to have those conversations and be able to say them in a very safe space. So I think that's what you're maybe asking.
So how would you
I can't call these.
how would you characterize the editing process? Was it easy?
Why did you decide you get the question?
Rick, you didn't even raise your
Rick's just like, I work here, I'm gonna fucking ask the
That editing
question.
process, I will say, I feel like I chose the breakup because I was like fucking done. I was like, you know what? Guess what, motherfuckers? I'm done.
Editing was hard, it was a one-camera shoot, no traditional coverage. You know, Jay's on the camera shooting it like a documentary. We all really love this idea. Like, our biggest inspiration for this movie was really documentaries, how sometimes the greatest dramatic climactic moment in a documentary happens out of focus in the corner in poor lighting, and that sort of underhanded execution is what we loved. So we just let that happen, which is fun in the shooting and hell in editing. Our editor, Jay Doobie, who's been with us for years, he spent a ridiculous amount of time. It took us 6 months to edit the movie to get it to the first cut. We put a cut out, and then we reshot the entire first 15 minutes of the movie and rewrote it as well. So there's a lot, you know, we talk about the slapdash nature of this, but there was a lot of actual methodical execution towards the back half of it. So editorial was a little painful and a little long. We had to face the music of what worked and what didn't. You know, we were very grateful, honestly, to have a third party come in there and objectively help us figure that out. Rick, you gotta pick somebody, Rick, because I don't want to be the bad guy.
Okay, so for the past 20 years, I feel like you two have been so sincere, from Black Rock to
Let's turn it all around.
Baghead. Like every movie you do feels honest and sincere, if it's funny or not. And I feel like you understand the state of cinema as well. And I've been listening to you, Mark, talk about it every Sundance, always kind of giving a pep talk. We're 20 years into your career. I need that pep talk now.
Don't we all?
Are you a filmmaker?
A film critic.
Yeah. It's really hard out there, and I do have a hard time having a very clear-eyed pep talk, but I can look you in the eye and say one thing for sure. In the state of our industry where we're at right now, which is for those of you who are not filmmakers, it's really, really, really bad right now. It's really tough. There was an arms race with all the streamers. They choked each other out. They overspent. Now the subscribers are coming down. They're spending less. They're more conservative. They don't want to take risks on interesting art. It's tough, which is why I'm so grateful all you motherfuckers came out into a physical movie theater tonight. Again, give yourselves a huge round of applause. To see a movie you could have seen on YouTube at 480p, which would have looked almost as good. But to your question, I think we are at a point where we actually have to look at filmmaking as an art form that might need to be looked at almost as more of a vocation level of things, of a way of saying it's important now more than ever as a rite of prayer and protest to put stories in the culture because we need it. And it's not 1997 anymore where we make this movie and we go to Sundance and sell it for $1 million and it becomes art, commerce, and career launcher at the same time. I think we have to just be willing to accept the fact that this piece of art isn't good enough just that it can go play at second-tier film festivals around the country and around the world in rooms like this, and we see eye to eye, and we have questions, and we talk, and maybe you lose a little bit of money on it, just like some great vocations do. But it's left behind, and it's this beautiful piece of art, and we share a conversation piece, and maybe it does lead to something that can be commercially viable in the future. But I think we're there now, and I think you need to look that in the eye and say, if that's worth it for me, it's still worth it to go make movies. And at this point, with our pedigree and everything, we're getting rejected from Sundance. We're getting rejected from South. We're getting like destroyed. We're getting turned down by small distributors. Like you think we're royalty who's been around. We can do whatever we want. It's brutal. Our egos are getting decimated every Monday morning by submissions. But put the art in the culture because it's still worth it. It's still worth it to get in a room with people and share ideas. And it's hard. And it's much harder, but I think it's still worth it.
I will also just add on to this, and I know this question was more I think it is really fascinating to look at the movies that were Oscar contenders this past year, which felt like really singular voices. Like, I watched One Battle After Another, like, only PT could make this movie. And, like, I didn't love Marty Supreme, but only Sappy was gonna make that movie. Like, they felt so unique and so singular. And there were some real crusty white dude movies that came out. You guys know what I'm talking about? And no one gave a shit. And it's like, great, let's celebrate these fucking singular voices because everyone who goes to see movies still loves them. And so we have to just keep going to see the movies and loving the movies because the voices are still there and the stories are still there and they're going to keep coming. And I thought this was like a really beautiful year of celebrating that. I thought what Ryan did with Sinners, like it was a really special year for movies to be celebrated on the larger level. And I think that does trickle down. There was so much crusty shit, guys, and no one cared. Like, it all came out there and we all watched it and we were like, it's not for us. And that's great. Like, thank God that didn't get celebrated, right? Like, I just think that, like, good movies are still good movies. And the business is, it sucks right now, but like, also when the world is awful, art is what remains. So hold true to it.
Rick, go pick some people. You right there. Yeah.
Hey, love your movie.
Thank you.
What
Great question. Who's next?
What happened to the Mumblecore movement? Where did it go?
That's such a great idea. What happened to the Mumblecore movement?
I feel like it's still there, it just isn't, I don't know,
I mean-
getting the distribution.
Yeah, I mean, we never really saw it
We just,
as a
I mean,
movement.
listen, we all got a little older, so like we're a little less navel gazing and more like raising children.
No, I'm still navel gazing. I'm still doing it. I think that the truth is, like, it was something created by the New York Times to put a moniker on us, and it was more a product of cheap digital technology came out, and a group of young people grabbed it and started making movies, and they called it a movement. Now, I think what really happened is that technology was fully democratized, and so now you have an iPhone shooting stuff that looks way better than this looks.
Also, Greta made Barbie.
Greta made Barbie, yeah.
So I don't
yeah.
know where Mumblecore.
So I think what it
went
is,
to a Barbie dream house.
well, it homogenized the whole thing, and so there are tons and tons of filmmakers out there. So you weren't able to focus on the 5 or 6 people that went and grabbed this esoteric technology and were able to get their wows together to make an 80-minute feature work. You have tons of people doing that. So it's diluted. The great news about it is that more people now have access to the technology and its democratization to make something that could really, really cut through. The bad news is you can't really see it as a movement because there are hundreds of thousands of micro-budget movies being made. So how do you figure out which ones to
But
do?
if you go to any film festival, you will find the next Duplass, Gerwig, Swanberg, all of the greats.
But there'll be more of them, yeah.
Hey, so we're getting married next month, so that was super wonderful and
Congratulations.
So you got a number.
Don't
It was 100%.
Don't do it.
and we're trying to write our vows and we're freaking out, so if we can't figure it out, can we use the vows?
100%. Free of charge. They're all
Vehemently don't recommend it.
Absolutely.
License
Go ahead.
for $1.
But they are yours for free.
Okay.
Congratulations.
There's no bad stuff. I want the way back corner. Way.
Wait.
Hey, I really loved all of the side characters and kind of odd locations.
Gross, this is a terrible question.
I'm just gonna keep going. I was wondering how you casted for those roles. They just seemed perfect for the roles. I wonder if you knew those people, if those were the places you went to.
Yeah, thanks for pointing that out. That's really thoughtful. I think that some of them were cast from New York. So Rhett's girlfriend that he meets is from New York, and the woman who busts me in the motel is from New York. The guy in the furniture store is from New York, but the woman in the furniture store is Katie's
It's
mom.
my mom.
Yeah. The woman behind us in the movie theater is Katie's mom under a hat. So it's like,
Playing a lesbian.
yeah.
As she has declared.
Yeah.
We didn't know at the time. She said,
The parents in the movie are my actual parents, who we forced to fly up there and play our parents.
How great is his dad?
Yeah. He actually told me that story one time, and I was like, "Come up and just tell the story on film. Do it." And we gave him half a beer, and he did just great. That's what helps. Yeah. And then all the other little small characters, for those filmmakers in the room or movie filmmakers, we highly recommend going to a small town, particularly where you have a personal connection, because we went to. Go ahead.
That was the town I grew up in, where we shot. So it was, the guy that worked at the movie theater was the guy that owned the movie theater until he died, where I had my first kiss, which is wild. Like the guy
Who the fuck was that?
his name was Chris Massengale, and I still to this day hope at one of these screenings he's here.
Chris.
Hello?
Chris.
Okay, not tonight.
No, Chris.
No, but the guy who helped put out the fire, and my God, the guy who would plays the reupholsterer, that poor man who Mark just screams at. It was like my mom's dear friend. I don't know what he thought he was signing up for. There were so many, just like people from my childhood, and the truth is that they've all passed away. So it's like wild to watch this movie.
But yeah, I think that if you're making a movie and you're thinking about where should I go, the town you grew up in is a really, really great option.
Yeah, for the guy who was like Black Rock, that was a movie where we were on boats for a little part of it. And I lived in like a little harbor town, very tiny like fishing town. So I went to the town manager and was like, hey, we want to shoot in the harbor, which is like a working harbor, you guys. It's like fishing is the only industry. And he was like, okay. And I was like, yeah, but I'm gonna be driving the boat. And he's like, okay. And I said, do you want to shut the harbor down? And he was like, no. But I said, okay. Okay, so it's me on a lobster boat coming into a harbor, which is not advised. And it's a wild thing to actually watch the movie and be like, oh, she shouldn't be doing that at all.
Get insurance. Okay, we have time for one quickie.
One great question.
She's got it. She's got it.
That one? She feels good about it.
Yeah, she feels confident.
No pressure.
Hi, I'm obsessed with like the movement of the camera in this film and in Creep and Creep 2. I think you're really interested in what perspective the camera plays. And I want to ask like how that feels like within triangulation as well, because someone else brought that up and I'm like, that's such an interesting thing because the camera feels like a third person. So what did it feel like to you
Jay
with the
does
movie?
feel like the third person for me.
Yeah.
It's not Rhett in the movie. It does feel like Jay with the camera. So I think that's fascinating.
We became obsessed with this idea that you could have reactions to lines of dialogue and not have to indicate with your face, and that there would be some other element involved that can help the audience understand that this is something extra to look at.
Also, keep in mind, this is before like Bravo. This is before like we
Before
were
The
seeing,
Office,
we
before
were
any of this stuff.
we hadn't seen any of this camera work yet. Like this felt very.
And something started to happen when Jay would start to zoom in, when I would just be deadpan reacting to something in one of the short films, and he would just zoom, and I wouldn't do anything, but there was an indication there that we wanted to look a little closer, and we got obsessed with it. And as we made the Puffy chair, we had been to Sundance, we had these like big agents, and they were all like, it's time to get out the big expensive camera, it's time to get Jay off of the camera because he doesn't know what he's doing, let's hire a professional cameraman. And we were like, we love this. We don't want to get rid of any of that. We want the prosumer camera. We want the documentary feel. We want the sense that some of this is going to happen in poor lighting, out of focus, and some of the times the camera is going to swing at the right time to tell you what you need. Now, there are negatives to this approach, which is all of that driving footage we actually shot on the interstate at 75 miles per hour. So Jay would shoot sitting in Katie's lap, shooting me while I'm driving on the interstate because we didn't know how to fake it because we're fucking idiots.
We weren't like Katie, move into the back seat.
Nope, none of that, no. He would just do that. And then Jay would get excited because he would hear something happen from Katie and be like, oh, I should really get Katie's side of this. And he would in the middle of driving on the highway, he would come over and he would sit on my lap and he would do this and settle himself down by grabbing onto the steering wheel to save himself. And I'm like, fuck. And so
My performance never wavered.
never wavered, yes. Mine did. So, there's good haphazard and there's bad haphazard. But I would say, again.
I think what is one of the most extraordinary things about this film, which I have only grown to appreciate now in doing these 20-year retrospective screenings, is how extraordinary Jay's camera work is in this movie and how it really does inform so much of the emotionality of this film. I think Mark and I are very good in it, but I think Jay is extraordinary in it. I think the way he intuits these emotional moments and could have done it in those moments, I think it's what makes this movie so special.
Yeah, I think it's a good point. And to your point, I think that, if you're sometimes dealing with a micro-budget film or your limitations, you're always thinking about, God, I wish there was a way I could do this more professionally. I wish if I had more money. But sometimes those limits and those little systems that you make up because it's all that you can do end up being your superpower in a way. And we used to be apologists for the way the film looked. And then as we've gone through the years, we're like, actually, maybe that was a good thing. So, You know, I think that's the beauty to your question earlier of like, what's going on in the state of our world, what's going on in the state of cinema. Like, that's the great news now, is anybody with a couple $100 has the ability to make something incredibly inspired and unique with the technology. So, I mean, we still believe that. We're still doing this. And we will be back here with one of our new movies, Magic Hour, in a couple of months. So, yes. So please check. Guys, hold on. Don't leave.
Guys,
Don't
don't
leave.
go anywhere.
There's some shit. There's some shit. We don't have a t-shirt cannon, but Katie can do it. So we printed these promotional Puffy Chair t-shirts in 2004. Because I was in an indie rock band, I was like, you make t-shirts, right? That's what you do. I don't know what sizes these are, they're coming. You need to go further. Okay. Also, hold on. This is weird. So when we sold this movie, we had no really good offers, and there was this company called Red Envelope Entertainment that was a subsidiary of this DVD company called Netflix. And they're like, we'll put you on our first streaming service. It's like, who the fuck's streaming movies? But that's all we could get. And these are our promotional DVDs for the Independent Spirit Awards and the Oscars. They didn't send it to the Oscars, which is why we have so many of them. So if you would like an original 2004 Puffy Chair DVD, we're gonna just run down the aisle, and that's what's gonna happen.
Okay, she's got two. Okay, we ran out. Sorry, guys.
Katie did really good. She made it all right. Thank you for coming to the cinema. Thank you.